Dr. Ayman, thank you so much for joining us on this special coverage. And Israel has been intensifying its airstrikes on Gaza. How do you view this recent escalation? If you can pinpoint the key military strategies behind Israel's continued airstrikes on Gaza, and how have they evolved over time?
After greetings to what the Israeli occupations undergoing in a continued airstriking on Gaza Strip after the resumption of the war on the 18th of March, there is an intensifying hostilities that lead to this now safe place in the Gaza Strip that lead the number of victims in a larger scales, and every day we more than 30 martyrs have fallen down, and the number has escalated to 53,000 and 1,000 under the rebels, 1,000 dead. There is no strategy for the Israeli occupation, and this establishing buffer zones in the Gaza Strip, and even today, when the exploded the distribution of the aids in line with establishing the safer zone. Till now, it never entered. Even the arrangement with the American side and the Israeli army refused to tackle the mission of distributing their aids, and this preceded by the establishment of buffer zones in the Gaza Strip, and there is a state of panic and crazy deeds by the Israeli army that would affect at a larger scale for the Allied hostages captured in Gaza.
So, sir, the Israeli Security Cabinet is set to hold a meeting to discuss expanding military operations in Gaza. What are your expectations regarding the outcomes of this meeting?
The cabinet of the Israeli small cabinet that convened yesterday and will be having another meeting at the end of today after the sunset. Therefore, they will tackle two files. The first one, the expansion of the Israeli operation in Gaza Strip that would lead to the beginning or the calling or summoning on the several soldiers of the reserve armies. And in addition, to discuss the mechanism of distributing the aid, as we've already mentioned, along with the establishment of the buffer zones. And it will be based upon the report that's going to be addressed tonight.
Yes, regarding the humanitarian crisis, according to the CNN, Israeli and U.S. officials are currently in talks to implement a mechanism that would allow for humanitarian aid entry that bypasses Hamas. How do you interpret the possibility of this happening?
This statement isn't new. Israelis talked about it many times in order to ease the international pressure to deliver the humanitarian aid into Gaza. We all know that the goods supplies were stopped in the beginning of this month, that we are having some sort of famine in the Gaza Strip, and all the goods storages were emptied, and what the occupation addressing to discuss the delivery mechanism in order just to ease the international pressure, and creating pretext as waiting for laying down the mechanism of distribution of the aid. And there is a disagreement between the political establishment and the army. It's only just to gain time. There is no vision of the distributing the aids. They are even the Palestinian Authority refusing to receive the humanitarian aids, and therefore they are on attempting to not to enter in the aid, and this would mean to resort into foreign companies, and would require many officials to supervise the process. And according to Israel, reported in the media, is to establish the buffer zones and to have the population block as a biggest as a big prison to move the population through the Mirage corridor, and then to be placed in this place to receive the food commodities, and the rest of the Gaza Strip will be just for places for engagement. This is the plan of the occupation forces.
Now it's become apparent that Israel is using starvation as a weapon against Palestinians. In light of this, how does the World Health Organization assess the long-term health risks posed by malnutrition and dehydration for Gaza's population, particularly for vulnerable groups like children?
There are thousands of the shortage of food. A great portion left fell dead and as designated as the victims of the war. According to the report, there is a greater shortage of the the vaccines, so that led the death toll to great numbers. Even a call launched by the Red Crescent organization talking about the catastrophic situations that affected all the children, along with the shortage of the food supplies. And there is a real famine in Gaza, and as they are lacking the flour that resorted to transform what is left of the beans and the food of the animals to be transformed to flour. All these that means that already reached to the face of famine. Unfortunately, the international community is crippled to curb the deeds of the occupation, and is exposed and subjected of the dedication of the backing countries such as the United States. And if the whole country is to pressure U.S. against this resolution, will find a resolution by the U.S. Unfortunately, in in a very state of brutality, only governed and controlled by the strongest.
Now, delving into a legal perspective, can you explain the legal implications of Israel's airstrikes and siege on Gaza, particularly in relation to international humanitarian law?
What is taken by the occupation is over exceeding the humanitarian laws. Even we cannot describe what's happening in Gaza is the war. Is only just like a slaughtering. On daily basis, the Palestinian people are getting killed. What are all being doing by the occupations, such as starvation and the refraining the entry of these medical supplies, is all can be prescribed that war crimes, and such as the attacks against the UNRWA and backed by the US. Hence, we are talking about an entity that is overall out of the international community and cannot find anyone to deter them.
Mhm. Lastly, sir, I have to ask you, what are the prospects for an immediate ceasefire or a political solution to address the growing humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza?
If we talk about a political solution, that it is the only the two-state solution that has already been killed. As mentioned by the UN officials, if we're talking about a temporary solution, there are efforts made by Cairo and Qatar to have some sort of a relief and to have an opportunity to start a negotiation about the ceasefire. But the occupation is rejecting this. What has only been doing by the occupation territories in Gaza and in Lebanon, and also striking the ship that was coming from Greece to deliver or to send some humanitarian aid.
Mhm.